The crowd roared. Dust swirled in the hot afternoon air, and the wrestling field shook under the stomping of 100 feet. Men, women, and children leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the two figures in the center. One was a broad-shouldered giant from a far-off village, a man who had defeated every challenger for 3 seasons straight. The other was just a boy named Udo. At only 16, Udo's arms were like carved wood, his chest solid as a tree trunk. He stood barefoot in the dirt, his face calm but his eyes locked on his opponent like a hawk sizing up prey. "Break him, Udo," a voice shouted from the crowd. Another yelled, "The boy is too small. This is madness." The drum beats grew faster, boom, 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 the signal for the fight to begin. The giant charged, sand spraying from under his feet. Udo didn't flinch. At the last second, he stepped aside, caught the man's arm, and with a movement as fast as a striking snake, flipped him clean over his shoulder. The crowd exploded. The giant hit the ground so hard, the dust rose in a thick cloud. He staggered up, dazed, but Udo was already there, locking his arms around the man's waist and lifting him off the ground like a sack of grain. With a roar, Udo slammed him onto his back. The drums stopped. The fight was over and Udo had won. Again. From that day, his name began to travel far. In every market square, at every village gathering, people spoke of the boy who could not be beaten. Udo's rise was swift. By the time he was 20, he had defeated every champion in the kingdom of Igbom. He had wrestled men twice his age, warriors with scars and titles, and sent them all to the ground. His strength became a thing of legend, his victory celebrated with feasts and songs. But for Udo, something was missing. One evening, as the sun set and the sky burned gold, he sat by the river with his closest friend Adi, a man as clever with his words as Udo was with his strength. Adi was his advisor, his voice of reason when hot blood threatened to cloud judgment. The two friends sat by the stream. Udo picked up a pebble and tossed it into the water, watching the ripples fade. "Adi," he said, "I have fought every man worth fighting in this kingdom. I have tested my strength against the best here, and I have won. But my heart is restless. I feel there is more, something greater out there waiting for me." Adi studied him carefully. "And what is it you seek, Udo?" Udo's eyes brightened. "The stories, Adi, the ones we heard as children about the 5 mystical kingdoms. Lands where champions are not men, but beings of legend, earth spirits that can make mountains move. Skykeepers who command the storms, water lords who control the seas, fire beasts born from the heart of volcanoes. And the kingdom of shadows, where no man has ever returned." Adi's face grew serious. "Udo, those are not wrestling arenas, those are realms of the supernatural. They will not fight fair, and they will not fall like men do." Udo smiled faintly. "Then let them try. I want the world to know there is no strength greater than mine," he boasted. For a long moment, Adi said nothing. Then he sighed, a small smile tugging at his lips. "If you must go, then I will go with you. I will be your guide, your eyes when danger hides, and the keeper of the treasures you win. But Udo, you must promise me one thing." "What is that?" Udo asked. "That you will not let pride blind you. The kingdoms beyond our borders test more than strength. They test the heart, the mind, and the will to survive." Udo extended his hand. "Then it is agreed." The next day the village gathered at the gates to see them off. Udo carried nothing but his wrestling cloth, charms for protection, and the confidence of a man who had never known defeat, and Adi walked beside him with a leather satchel for the spoils of victory. Their first destination was whispered among the crowd, the kingdom of the earth spirits. The journey began through thick forest where sunlight barely touched the ground, across rivers whose waters ran so clear they reflected the clouds. But as they climbed the hills leading to the Earth Spirit's realm, the air grew heavy. The soil beneath their feet began to hum as if alive. By the time they reached the boundary stones, Udo could feel the ground shifting. Trees seemed to watch them and rocks shifted positions when they weren't looking. Adi placed a hand on his shoulder. From here on, my friend, we are in their land. Every step we take, they will feel it. Every breath we take, they will hear it. We have to stay alert. Udo just smiled. Let them come. And with that, they stepped into a land where the ground itself had a heartbeat. That's where the story truly begins. The journey to the kingdom of the Earth Spirits was not like any path Udo and Adi had taken before. They walked for days, their feet sinking into soft damp soil. The air grew heavy, almost alive, carrying a deep humming sound that seemed to rise from beneath the ground. The trees around them were ancient, twisted giants with roots like the coils of a massive snake. Every so often, the ground would rumble softly, as if the earth itself was breathing. Adi glanced at his friend. Udo, you feel that? Udo smiled, unfazed. The ground moves, Adi, but so do I. Let's see if it can keep up. Finally, they reached a great stone arch carved into the side of a cliff. Symbols of mountains, rivers, and creatures made of stone covered its surface. As they stepped through, the air became cooler, and the land seemed to awaken. Pebbles rolled across the path by themselves. The tall rocks shifted slightly when no one touched them. And then, they saw him. A towering figure made of stone and soil stood ahead, vines twisted around his arms like living ropes and his eyes glowed with a golden light. This was Oromo, champion of the earth spirits. When he spoke, his voice was like boulders grinding together. You, human, dare to challenge the champion of the earth. The ground will rise to protect me, and it will swallow you whole. Adi stepped forward, whispering to Udo. He draws his power from the ground. If you lose your footing, he'll crush you. Stay light on your feet, and strike fast. Udo nodded, stepping closer, his eyes locked on Oromo. Stone or not, you will fall like the rest. The fight began. Oromo slammed his massive foot into the ground, and the earth shuddered violently. Huge walls of rock shot up around Udo, trapping him inside a stone ring. From the walls, sharp pillars of rock burst forward, aiming to impale him. Udo ducked, roared, and leapt, moving faster than any man had a right to. He lunged for Oromo's arm, but the earth spirit's body was as hard as iron. Every throw, every grapple Udo attempted seemed useless. The ground beneath Oromo softened to absorb the impact, letting him rise unharmed. You cannot harm the earth, human, Oromo boomed. It is eternal. But Udo wasn't just muscle, he was cunning. As Oromo stomped again to send a shockwave, Udo leapt high, catching one of the hanging vines overhead. He swung across the ring and landed right on Oromo's shoulders. With all his might, he locked his arms around the creature's neck and pulled. The creature roared, grabbing at Udo, but Udo shifted his weight suddenly, flipping Oromo over his back. The ground spirit slammed into the earth with a force that cracked a stone ring. Before Oromo could rise, Udo stomped hard into his chest, sending deep cracks running through the stone body. The golden light in Oromo's eyes flickered. Slowly, his massive frame crumbled to one knee. You have defeated me, human, Oromo rumbled, but beware, human, the next kingdom will not be as forgiving. The walls of stone melted back into the earth. From the shadows of the cliffs, the elders of the earth spirit stepped forward. Their bodies were smaller than Oromo's, but they too were made of stone, their eyes deep and wise. One of them spoke. Udo of the mortal lands, your strength has shaken even the oldest root of this kingdom. Take this as our tribute. They placed before him a heavy chest carved from solid rock. When Udo opened it, Gems of every color shimmered inside, catching the light like pieces of the sun. Adi stepped forward with a grin, closing the chest carefully. "One kingdom down, my friend, and 4 more to go." Udo looked up at the stone archway, his heart pounding not from exhaustion, but from excitement. The challenge had begun, and the road ahead promised even greater battles. The 2 men turned away from the Earth Spirit's land, the ground rumbling beneath them as if giving a farewell. In the distance, clouds rolled over a towering mountain and lightning flashed across the sky. Adi followed Udo's gaze. "The kingdom of the Skykeepers," he said quietly. Udo's lips curled into a smile. "Good. Let's see if the wind can fight better than the earth." And with that, they marched toward their next trial. The path to the kingdom of the Skykeepers was unlike anything Udo and Adi had faced before. For 2 days, they climbed the side of a mountain so tall that its peak vanished into the clouds. The air grew thinner with each step, sharp and cold against their lungs. The wind howled constantly, pulling at their clothes and threatening to sweep them off the narrow paths. Adi looked up at the endless stretch of rock above them and muttered, "If we sleep here, Udo, our journey will end faster than any battle could." Udo chuckled, steadying his footing. "Then we won't sleep, Adi. We climb until the sky itself greets us." At last, they reached the summit, a flat plateau stretching like a great stone floor above the clouds. The view was breathtaking. Below them, the world looked like a painted map, and above them, the sky blazed in brilliant shades of gold and silver. But this beauty was deceptive. The air was restless, alive with swirling gusts that shifted direction without warning. And then, the wind changed. A shadow crossed the sun. From the edge of the plateau, a figure descended, not by walking, but gliding on enormous wings. This was Ajolu, champion of the Skykeepers. His voice roared like thunder. "Udo of the mortal lands, I have heard of your victory over Olmu, the stone giant. But here, in my domain, the sky obeys my command. Do you believe you can catch the wind?" Adi stepped forward, studying Ajolu's wings and the way the air shifted around him. He leaned close to Udo and whispered, "He moves like the storm, fast, unpredictable. If you try to chase him in the air, you lose. Bring him down to the ground, Udo. That's where you're strongest." Udo nodded, tightening the belt around his waist. "Then let's see if the wind can fall." The fight began. Ajolu shot upward, wings beating with incredible force. The gust knocked Udo a few steps back. Then, without warning, Ajolu dived, his talons extended. Udo rolled aside just as they slammed into the stone, leaving deep scratches in the rock. Ajolu rose again, circling like a hawk over prey. He beat his wings hard, creating a cyclone that pulled loose stones into the air and hurled them at Udo. One sharp fragment cut across Udo's arm, but he kept moving, eyes fixed on his opponent. "You cannot touch the wind," Ajolu taunted from above. Udo only grinned. "Then I'll wait until the wind comes to me." Ajolu dived again, this time faster. Udo waited, one heartbeat, two, and then, at the last moment, he leapt forward, wrapping his arms around Ajolu's leg. The sudden weight pulled the sky champion down hard onto the plateau. The two wrestled, Ajolu's wings thrashing wildly. Feathers whipped the air like whips, and sparks of lightning danced around them, but Udo's grip was like iron. He hooked one arm around Ajolu's neck, forcing him down, while his other hand pinned the wing closest to him. With a roar, Udo twisted, slamming Ajolu's body into the ground with a force that cracked the stone beneath them. The wind screamed and then fell silent. Ajolu's breath came in ragged bursts, lightning still flickering faintly in his eyes as Udo held him down, but there was no malice in his voice when he spoke again. "You have bested me, Udo," he said, his voice like the fading rumble of a storm. But the next kingdom will not let you stand so firmly on your feet. The waters will pull you under before you can even draw your breath. From the edge of the plateau, the Skykeepers descended, men and women with wings like eagles and falcons, their feathers shimmering in the light. They carried with them a chest made from pure gold feathers, each one glimmering like fire in the sunlight. One of the elders spoke, his voice gentle but strong. "Mortal champion, you have grounded the sky's pride. Please accept this tribute as proof of your victory." Adi stepped forward, carefully lifting the chest. The gold feathers clinked softly inside, and his eyes sparkled. "2 kingdoms down, Udo. But I have a feeling the next one won't be so easy." Udo looked toward the horizon, where clouds gathered over a distant river. The sun's reflection shimmered off the water like a silver blade. "The kingdom of the water lords," Adi said quietly. Udo smiled faintly. "Good. Let's see if water can fight better than wind." And with that, the two began their descent from the mountain, their minds fixed on the battles yet to come. The journey from the sky to the sea was not a short one. For 3 days, Udo and Adi traveled down winding jungle paths, their steps crunching on damp leaves. The air grew cooler, heavy with the sound of rushing rivers and the cries of distant seabirds. By the 4th day, the smell of salt filled their lungs. Ahead, the dense trees broke apart, revealing a sight so breathtaking that even Udo, the fearless wrestler, stopped in his tracks. Before them stretched an endless expanse of shimmering water. The ocean surface glowed silver under the sun, and in the distance, massive waves rose and fell like sleeping giants, but this was no ordinary sea. From the shore, coral towers taller than any tree pierced the waves, connected by bridges of living seaweed. Waterfalls of pure turquoise cascaded down their sides, disappearing into the deep below. Schools of fish, their scales flashing gold and emerald, leapt in arcs through the air, while strange glowing creatures floated just beneath the surface. Adi took a slow breath. "Beautiful," he murmured, "but beauty can hide the sharpest teeth." They followed a narrow bridge of coral into the heart of the water kingdom. The deeper they went, the more the air shimmered with moisture. Their feet echoed on the wet coral path, and everywhere they looked, the sea itself seemed to be watching them. It was then the water shifted. The surface swirled like a whirlpool, and from it rose a figure taller than both men combined, his body constantly changing shape. At times, he looked human, at others, he was nothing but a towering column of water with arms like crashing waves. This was Kado, champion of the water lords. His voice was deep, like the rumble of the ocean floor. "So, the man who tamed the earth, the man who brought down the storm, now dares to step into the waters. Foolish. Here, strength means nothing. Here, I am everywhere, and I am endless." Kado roared. Udo cracked his knuckles. "Endless or not, you can still fall." Adi's eyes darted across the water. He stepped closer to his friend and spoke in a low tone. "Udo, remember, water doesn't fight like a man. You can't grip it. You can't throw it. And if he drags you under, you may never see the sky again." The fight began without warning. Kado surged forward, his body reshaping into a towering wave. He slammed into Udo with the force of a river bursting its banks. Udo staggered but didn't fall, the ground beneath his feet trembled with each hit. Again and again, Kado struck, each blow splashing against Udo's chest and shoulders, each one sending sprays of icy water into the air. Udo swung back, his fist cutting through water, but each time, Kado slipped through his grasp, reforming behind him and striking again. It was like fighting smoke, only heavier and colder. Adi's voice cut through the roar of waves. "He loses a little form every time he hits the rocks. Let him waste his strength." Udo's eyes sharpened. He stood his ground, dodging just enough so that Kado's attack smashed into the jagged coral and stone around them. Each impact left fragments of Kado behind, droplets that couldn't return to his main form quickly enough. Kado's strikes began to slow. His once massive body shrunk with every failed attack, and Udo knew the time had come. With a roar, he lunged forward, wrapping his arms around what was left of Kado's upper body. The Water Lord struggled, trying to slip free, but Udo slammed him against the largest coral spire, pinning him there. The spire's sharp edges split the flowing water form apart, and with one last heave, Udo scattered him into the sea. The ocean went silent. A moment later, the surface shimmered, and the elders of the Water Lords rose from the depths, their robes made of flowing currents, their crowns formed from shells and pearls. The elders stepped forward, holding a large chest carved from coral and lined with shimmering pearls. "You have done the impossible, Udo of Igbom. Take this tribute, and know that the sea respects your name," the elder said as he offered them the tribute. Adi took the chest carefully, glancing at his friend with a proud smirk. "3 kingdoms conquered, Udo. And still, the fire awaits." Udo grinned, water dripping from his hair and shoulders. "Then let's see if the flames can burn as hot as the sea was cold." The two men turned toward the horizon, where smoke rose from a distant, fiery mountain, the entrance to the kingdom of the fire beast. The air was already warmer as Udo and Adi trekked across the blackened hills. The ground beneath their sandals was cracked and dry, every step crunching like brittle bones. Ahead, the horizon glowed an ominous orange, and a river of molten lava cut through the land like a scar. Adi pulled his cloth over his nose, his voice muffled. "Udo, this place smells like death and brimstone. Even the wind burns." Udo smirked, his broad shoulders glistening with sweat. "Good. It means we're getting close." The two men descended into a valley of scorched rock, flames danced in the distance, bursting from the ground without warning. The earth rumbled as if something deep below was breathing. Then, from the mouth of a massive volcano, he emerged. Odoya, the champion of the fire beast. He was a towering figure of living magma, his skin cracked like volcanic rock, glowing with rivers of molten fire. Each step left behind a trail of smoking ash. Flames curled around his fist as if they were alive. Odoya's voice thundered like the eruption of a mountain. "Udo, I have heard of you. The man who defeated the Earth Spirit, who grounded the Skykeeper, who humbled the Water Lord. But here," he spread his molten arms wide, "your strength will melt into nothing." Adi stepped forward, cautious. "Udo, fire cannot be wrestled like flesh. You need to." But Udo raised a hand, cutting him off. "I came here to wrestle, Adi. And wrestle I will." Odoya stomped the ground, and a shockwave of fire ripped toward Udo. The heat slammed into him like a burning wall, but Udo charged forward, unfazed. He locked his arms around Odoya's torso, but the fire champion's body was scorching hot, the smell of burnt skin filled the air. Udo roared through the pain, tightening his grip, but Odoya drove a blazing knee into his ribs, sending him flying back. Adi yelled from the sidelines, shielding his face from the heat. "Don't stay in his flames too long. Wear him down." Udo spat blood into the dust and grinned. "Good advice." He began circling, forcing Odoya to give chase. Every time the fire beast lunged, Udo dodged, letting him smash his molten fist into the blackened rock. The ground hissed and bubbled where Odoya struck, spraying sparks into the air. But Udo noticed something. Every time Odoya attacked full force, the glow of his molten skin dimmed for just a moment. Udo baited him again, dodging at the last second. Odoya's punch connected with a jagged stone pillar, shattering it and spraying molten shards everywhere. "Udo, smirking, you're slowing down, fireman." Roaring in fury, Odoya launched a torrent of flame. Udo ducked low, rode across the ashen ground, and came up behind him. He wrapped his massive arms around Odoya's waist, this time avoiding the hottest glowing spots, and lifted. The ground trembled as Udo hoisted the fire beast over his head and slammed him into the earth. Lava splattered like liquid metal, and the flames around Odoya flickered weakly. Udo knew he had only one chance. He dragged Odoya toward the volcano's edge, each step a battle against the beast's resistance. Odoya thrashed and clawed, but Udo's grip was iron. With a roar that shook the fiery land, Udo spun and hurled Odoya into the molten heart of the volcano. The fire beast let out one last earth-shaking scream before sinking into the bubbling lava. Silence fell. The flames around the valley dimmed, and the air cooled slightly. From the shadows of the volcano's rim, the fire beast elders emerged. They carried a crown forged from pure flame, glowing but cool to the touch. Udo of the mortal realm, the elder declared, his voice echoing like the crackle of embers, you have achieved the impossible. Take this crown, a mark that even the fiercest fire bows to your strength. Udo took the crown, holding it high as Adi grinned from ear to ear. 4 kingdoms down, 1 more to go. But this last one, his tone darkened, is the most dangerous of them all. Adi said smiling. Udo simply adjusted the crown on his head and looked toward the horizon. Then we go. Udo and Adi stood at the edge of a land where the sun never rose. The air was damp and cold, and every tree looked like it had been burned into charcoal. Shadows flickered in the corners of their eyes, disappearing whenever they tried to look directly. Adi pulled his cloak tighter. Udo, I've heard stories about this place. The shadows here are not just darkness. They hunt. Udo's jaw tightened. Then let them try. They stepped into the realm, and immediately, the ground beneath them felt strange, soft but unsteady, as if they were walking on the backs of unseen creatures. From the darkness ahead, shapes began to move. First 1, then 5, then dozens. Shadow beasts, twisted, long-limbed creatures with no faces, only glowing white eyes, crawled toward them, their movements jerky and unnatural. From among them emerged their champion, a towering, shifting figure whose form refused to stay the same for more than a moment. Sometimes a beast, sometimes a man, sometimes nothing but a living shadow with claws sharper than steel. Its voice rolled through the mist, deep and echoing, as if the darkness itself was speaking. Udo of the mortal realm, you have crushed earth, sky, water, and fire. But here, there is no ground to stand on, no wind to carry you, no flame to guide you. Here, there is only darkness, endless darkness, the shadow champion hissed. Adi leaned in close, whispering. Don't trust your eyes. They'll try to confuse you, make you fight phantoms while the real danger strikes from behind. The fight began instantly. A wall of shadow slammed toward Udo, and he dove aside, rolling to his feet. But before he could counter, a clawed arm emerged from the ground beneath him, slicing the air where his legs had been a heartbeat before. He grabbed the arm, only for it to dissolve into black mist. The shadow beast attacked in waves, never allowing him a moment's rest. Every blow he landed seemed to hit nothing, while claws and teeth came from all sides. Udo roared in defiance, grabbing 2 beasts by their necks and smashing them together, only for them to melt into smoke and reform behind him. Adi's voice cut through the chaos, desperate but sharp. Udo, you can't fight them like the others, they are the shadows. Bring light into the darkness, and they'll burn away. Udo's eyes narrowed. Light, but where could he find it here? Then Adi dug into his bag and pulled out one of their treasures, the golden feather from the Skykeepers. It still glowed softly, even in the heavy darkness. Catch! Adi yelled, hurling it toward him. Udo snatched it midair. The moment his fingers closed around it, a burst of radiant light exploded outward, slicing through the mist. The nearest beast screamed and dissolved into curling smoke. He understood now. Udo surged forward, wielding the glowing feather like a weapon. Every swing carved light into the darkness, every strike burned another beast into nothing. He spotted the towering shadow course, spiked obelisks pulsing with black fire, and charged. With a roar, he slammed the feather into the first core. White light tore through it, shattering it from the inside out. The shadows shrieked in agony. The champion bellowed, its voice shaking the ground. No! You dare bring the light of the skies into my kingdom. But Udo didn't stop. One by one, he destroyed the cores, smashing one apart with his bare fist, stabbing another until it burst, light spilling across the battlefield. The shadow army crumbled with each destruction, fading into nothing. Finally, only the champion remained, its body flickering wildly, its voice breaking. Without the darkness, I am nothing. Udo lunged, slamming it to the ground. His fist came down like thunder until the champion exploded into a storm of fading mist. Silence followed. From the edge of the gloom, the elders of the Shadow Kingdom emerged, tall, robed figures whose faces hid beneath deep hoods. One stepped forward and spoke in a voice like the echo of a forgotten cave. Udo of the mortal realm, none have ever driven the darkness from this land. Yet here you stand. Take this. He held out a black ring, etched with veins of silver that shimmered faintly. A mark that even the night itself has bowed to your will. Udo slipped it onto his finger and the cold metal pulsed as though alive. Adi clapped him on the back. That's it, my friend. All 5 kingdoms. You have done what no mortal has ever done. The mist parted, revealing a winding path back to their homeland. Udo looked over his shoulder one last time toward the silent shadows. Let them remember the mortal who walked into darkness and came back. They stepped forward, Adi with the treasures of 5 kingdoms, Udo bearing the scars of countless battles and the weight of a legend. The story of Udo the great wrestler would echo through the ages, not just as a tale of strength, but of courage against the impossible. And though the 5 mystical kingdoms had been conquered, Udo knew, somewhere beyond the horizon, another challenge waited. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, share it with someone who would love it, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. See you in the next one.